Welcome back, Commander fans. Today, we're diving into the world of underappreciated Magic: The Gathering commanders. We all know about the heavy hitters like Atraxa and Krenko, but what about those hidden gems that often go unnoticed? Buckle up, because I'm about to introduce you to 10 commanders who not only won't break the bank, but can also lead some super fun and unique decks. Let's get started with number 10. Let's kick things off with Isperia, Supreme Judge, a card that basically says, "Go ahead, hit me, I dare you." This Azorius commander gives you a juicy reward whenever someone swings at you. You get to draw cards. So naturally, you want to build a solid pillow fort around Isperia. Cards like Ghostly Prison, Propaganda, and Sphere of Safety will make sure no one wants to attack you. And if they do, you get rewarded. It's like being the principal who hands out detentions for bad behavior. Add in some flying creatures to go on the offensive, and you've got yourself a deck that can control the board while drawing tons of cards. Yasova Dragonclaw is one of my favorite commanders when it comes to, let's just say, borrowing things from your friends. Every turn, Yasova lets you steal one of your opponent's creatures for just 3 mana. It's like walking into a party and grabbing the coolest thing in the room for yourself. The trick is, you don't give it back. Instead, you sacrifice it to something like Goblin Bombardment or Greater Good. Throw in some threaten effects like Active Treason, and suddenly your opponents will be afraid to play anything big, knowing Yasova's gonna snatch it away. Okay, who doesn't like drawing cards and gaining life? Tatyova, Benthic Druid, does both, and she does it really well. Every time you play a land, you draw a card and gain life. And since we're playing Simic, we're gonna ramp like crazy. Get yourself a few extra land drops with Cultivate, Kodama's Reach, or even Azusa, Lost but Seeking, and before long, you'll have a handful of options and enough life to tank almost anything. Add in some big landfall payoffs like Avenger of Zendikar, and you're golden. Emmara's the type of commander that flies under the radar, but don't sleep on her. Every time she taps, you get a 1/1 soldier token. That might not seem like much, but when you combine it with cards like Glare of Subdual, it gets fun. Tap Emmara to tap down your opponent's best creature, and you get a free token for your trouble. Then, of course, those tokens start piling up, and before you know it, you're swinging wide with an army of soldiers. Add some Anthem effects like Intangible Virtue, and you've got a token swarm deck that's super fun and surprisingly effective. Ghen is one of those commanders that quietly brings enchantments back from the dead, and we all know how powerful enchantments can be. To get the most out of him, you'll want to include enchantments that can be sacrificed or ones that have powerful effects when they leave the battlefield. Cards like Seal of Cleansing, Seal of Primordium, and Doom Foretold can be sacrificed for value, and then you can bring them right back with Ghen's ability. Enchantments like Animate Dead and Gift of Immortality are perfect to reanimate key creatures or protect your own, while Darksteel Mutation lets you lock down your opponent's biggest threats. Ghen's versatility makes him a sneaky powerhouse, and the value he generates will definitely keep your opponents on their toes. Now here's one for those who just want to smash things. Nikya of the Old Ways is all about ramping into huge creatures. Sure, you can't cast non-creature spells, but who cares when you're tapping for double mana? You'll be slamming down giant monsters like Galta, Primal Hunger, and maybe even swinging with Crater Hoof Behemoth for that big win. If you like swinging with big stompy creatures, Nikya's your commander. Just make sure your deck is filled with creatures that can close out the game. Shirei might not look like much, but trust me, the combo potential is wild. Whenever a creature with 1 power dies under your control, it comes back at the end of the turn. So what do? You load your deck with creatures that love dying, like Doomed Traveler, Reassembling Skeleton, or Serrated Scorpion, and you keep bringing them back. Then start stacking up some sweet death triggers with Blood Artist or Zulaport Cutthroat, and suddenly you're pinging your opponents down while your board keeps refilling. It's janky, but when it works, it's so satisfying. Anax and Cymede are here for the Boros fans who love combat tricks. Every time you cast an instant or sorcery that targets them, your whole team gets Pulbo 1/1 and Trample. Picture this: you cast Defiant Strike to draw a card, then bam, your entire army is now bigger and trampling through blockers. The trick is to fill the deck with low-cost instants that pump your creatures or give them evasion, so your board can hit hard out of nowhere. Cards like God's Willing or Timur Battle Rage can turn an average swing into a game-winning blow. Teysa, Orzhov Scion, may not seem flashy, but in the right deck she's a powerhouse. Whenever a black creature dies, you get a white spirit token, and with a little setup, you can keep sacrificing creatures to exile threats from your opponents. The deck revolves around sacrificing creatures for value, using cards like Ashnod's Altar or Phyrexian Altar to create even more mana and snowball your advantage. Combine her with death triggers like Blood Artist or Vindictive Vampire, and you'll start bleeding your opponents dry while locking down their board. Finally, we've got the Chaos King, Zada, Hedron Grinder. This guy takes a single target spell and turns it into absolute madness. Picture this, you cast Expedite on Zada, and suddenly every creature you control draws you a card. Or maybe you cast Timur Battle Rage, and now your whole board has double strike and trample. It's pure chaos in the best way possible. The deck is full of cheap single target spells that get copied for each creature, and the results are always insane. Zada's all about maximizing value from seemingly small effects, and trust me, it's a blast to play. And that's a wrap. These are my top 10 underrated commanders, and if you're looking to spice up your next deck, I definitely recommend giving these a try. Let me know which one you're most excited to build around in the comments below, and don't forget, this is just part 1. Stay tuned for part 2, and as always, keep building, keep brewing, and stay heroic.